Welcome to US Rail Journeys, Series 3. It's been a long time coming, but with the easing of travel restrictions, I have been able to make the journeys I had originally planned for the spring of 2020. Join me as I travel 6,684 miles with Amtrak across the United States. First, I take the Silver Star from Miami to New York, then the Crescent from New York to New Orleans. Next, I take the Texas Eagle from Los Angeles via San Antonio to Chicago. Then it's the Lakeshore Limited from Chicago to New York. And finally, the Acela from New York up to Boston. Episode 7, where the Silver Star continues its journey through North Carolina from Cary to Rocky Mount. Just past a river and now going past an area that looks swampy. Well, I say it looks swampy because yes, it is swampy. There's lots of water, there's lots of weed, trees growing in the swamp. We're travelling at about 60 miles an hour. On the other side of some trees, we're passing through a small community. Clapboard Church. Not sure whether there was anyone in the Clapboard Church or whether it was waiting for morning service a bit later on today. We're now travelling under a major highway and then back into the trees. But this time, about 50 yards into the trees, there's a small local road running, and then more forest beyond. Now just past a road freight depot on the other side of the road. A number of trucks all lined up, probably waiting for tomorrow morning to start making deliveries again. Just past another church, this time some cars parked outside it. So it must be time for morning service. All the way along this part of the track, I can see through the trees houses, not many of them, but nice houses built in amongst the woodland. Looks like it's probably a very nice place to live. We're now certainly coming into somewhere much bigger. Instead of a few houses spread out around a church, we're now into blocks of flats, housing estates, still with lots and lots of trees, but I think we're getting nearer to a bigger town. Cary is in the heart of the Research Triangle region and at one time was the 5th fastest growing city in the US. It was founded in 1750 and the coming of the railways placed it on a major route. Some 68% of adult residents hold an associate degree or higher, with the most PhDs per capita of all US cities larger than 75,000 people. The largest employer is the privately owned SAS Institute, a major software company. Apparently it has one of the lowest crime rates in the United States. The station opened in 1996 and is served by 3 Amtrak trains, the Silver Star, Carolinian and the Piedmont services. The railway came to Cary in 1854 with the arrival of the North Carolina Railroad. A second line was completed in 1868 by the Chatham Railroad. Regular passenger services began in 1867. The rail service was discontinued during the Great Depression. The historic station was demolished in about 1976, and when Amtrak passenger services to Cary resumed in 1995, there wasn't a station in the town. In 1996, the North Carolina Department of Transportation Rail Division, built a platform and a shelter at the cost of $100,000. Later, a new Cary station costing $737,000 was opened. In 2006, another platform was built to allow the Silver Star to serve Cary. In Amtrak's 2017 Customer Satisfaction Survey, the Cary station ranked number 1 for overall experience. Amtrak customers reviewed stations based on cleanliness, ease of boarding, safety, signage and staff friendliness. It was used by nearly 85,400 Amtrak passengers in 2019. Another station where we've had to have 2 goes to get the passengers loaded onto the train. And of course, we've been sat across 2 crossings again. On one side of the road, behind some trees, a really magnificent looking house, and on the other side of the road, more 1960s and 70s plain block business premises with no architectural merit at all. But that was Cary. Behind the trees I can see various industrial sites, what look like cement works just past. I think the trees are shielding me from the ugliness of some of the industrial buildings. Now we're passing a wood yard, including tree trunks. The site of the State Fair and a large water column. A radio mast with dishes all the way up it. And now some plain, open countryside, wooded but pleasant. And of course, as we proceed, a site for yet another highway being built. Bridges across the track. The car must rule everywhere. Our compass bearing must have changed because the sun has come round to the other side of the train. We're heading towards Raleigh, which is about 30 minutes out of Cary. The city was chosen as the capital of North Carolina in 1788 and is known as the City of Oaks. It's part of the Research Triangle metropolitan region, along with Durham and Chapel Hill. The Research Triangle Park was founded in 1959. The city escaped significant damage during the Civil War, but there was little growth in the following decades due to economic stagnation in the post-war Reconstruction period. Wake County has the highest number of homeschooled children in the state. The Union Station is a new intermodal transit facility where services began on the morning of July the 10th, 2018. The main building is used by Amtrak. It's located at Boylan Y, a railway junction used by CSX and Norfolk Southern. In 2018, it was the second busiest station in North Carolina and one of the busiest in the southeast. There's lots of history here. The 1890 Union Depot was constructed by the Raleigh and Gaston Railroad. It also served the original Norfolk Southern Railway and the Southern Railway. Being a stub-end station meant that it was inconvenient, especially as passenger trains grew longer and obstructed the Boylan Y. Seaboard left the station in 1942 and Southern in 1950, when the original Norfolk Southern had stopped passenger trains. I think we've just crossed the Boylan Y. Seaboard opened another station in 1942, located next to Seaboard's freight yard, and this was leased by Amtrak in 1971. The Southern Station opened in 1950, built in the colonial revival style. In 1964, Southern withdrew its final trains from Raleigh and closed the station. The station was repurposed for storage, and the Seaboard station was the only passenger station for the next 21 years, until Amtrak moved its services there. At 10:14 p.m. on July the 9th, 2018, the Piedmont number 78 was the last train to arrive at the old station, as the following day all services moved to Raleigh Union Station. demolition of the southern station was completed by August the 1st the same year. The new station is the 7th busiest station in the southeast of the United States and was used by over 172,100 Amtrak passengers in 2019. The countryside that we're passing through is changing all the time. Still lots of trees, but also ploughed fields, agriculture, and more small communities. It's an absolutely beautiful day for a train journey. I'm sat in the dining car with Linda. Meals have long finished. I think lunch will probably be in about half an hour. But we've been having a chat about going to different parts of the USA. Linda, I think, got on at Orlando last night.
Yes, I got on at Winter Park, Florida, and it was later than I had taken before because they used to leave in the morning. Now they left at 7:30 at night, and we got on the train and had a wonderful dinner, and afterwards went to our sleeping car and rocked ourselves to sleep for 9 hours.
That sounds as though you had a good night's sleep. I found it rattled a bit, but still I did sleep quite well. So why are you on the train today?
Well, my story is a little different than some. I used to travel quite a bit internationally and domestically on flights, and I had a couple of scares on some flights and decided I didn't like flying anymore. So for the last 30 years now, if I go somewhere in the United States, I will either go by car or by train, which I found to be a nice, different way of traveling to my destination.
And you're going to where on this trip?
We're going to New York City because my daughter, who graduated from the University of Miami, was offered a position in New York, and she's taking it even though she's never been to New York. And she'll be living there a couple of years before she lands back in Florida.
So that means you'll probably be traveling to New York a number of times.
Yes, I think I will be a frequent traveler on Amtrak because this is the way I want to go. My two daughters that are going to New York to help her move in are both flying and getting there 7 hours earlier to meet us at the hotel. So I will be the train traveler while they fly and meet us there.
And are you planning anything else whilst you're on this trip?
Lots of shopping. Aside from shopping, lots of moving an entire apartment in for her before we depart on July 2nd. And then I think after speaking with you, we may actually extend our trip and take a train maybe over to Maine or Rhode Island, or my husband would like to go to Toronto, and maybe extend it another week.
I'm not part of the Amtrak advertising service. It's good that you're interested in travelling by train because so many people in this country don't like to travel by train.
And I get made fun of quite a bit by my friends that get on a plane and arrive somewhere in 2 hours when it takes me 10. But I also have taken some of the buses, which is hilarious. But there's some nice luxury bus lines, and I find that it can be relaxing and a little easier than if I ever saw an airport again, I'd be fine. So that's how I feel about it.
I don't think I've ever been to an airport that has a soul. And anyhow, travelling by train or by bus, if you don't mind travelling by bus, you see the countryside.
Yes, you see the countryside, and you do meet more people. Because if you're on a plane, you just meet the person next to you or whoever you're traveling with. You get to your destination. Every train or bus ride I've been on, I have met people like we met you.
Well, thank you very much. It's been lovely to talk to you. We were scheduled to reach Rocky Mount in mid-morning, well past 11 o'clock now. Whilst the town was incorporated in 1867, its first post office had opened in 1816. The Golden East Crossing Mall is one of the biggest malls east of Raleigh. Rocky Mount Station, officially the Helen P. Gay Rocky Mount Historic Train Station, is an intermodal transit station. The main building is used as an Amtrak railway station, and an adjacent building is the bus terminus for the Tar River Transit and also for Greyhound. The station was originally built in 1893 by the Wilmington and Weldon Railroad in dark red brick in the Romanesque Revival style. The Atlantic Coastline Railroad rebuilt the station between 1911 and 1912, and then rebuilt it again in 1916. During the 1960s, they built a modern structure within the station to store switches and signal equipment. In 1995, the station and a former REA Express freight house was sold to the city of Rocky Mount. Between 1997 and 2000, the station was restored to its early 20th century design features, with ADA-compliant platforms and other amenities, and the freight house was converted into a bus terminal. As we pull into Rocky Mount, there's an old rail car next to the platform. In 2010, the station was named after Helen P. Gay, a former member of the Rocky Mount City Council, who was instrumental in the station's restoration project. Former ACL office car 303 is on display next to the station, but sadly, at the current time, it's covered in a tarpaulin. The Amtrak-operated station provides intercity rail services on 4 routes: the Carolinian, the Palmetto, the Silver Meteor, and the Silver Star. There's a ticket office, passenger assistance, baggage service, and the waiting area, and it's open 24 hours a day. The station was used by over 50,860 passengers in 2019. We've gained a bit of time back. I think we're leaving just about 1 hour late. We're pulling out of Rocky Mount at the same time as an empty freight train. A large number of container carrying cars with no containers on them at the moment. No doubt they're going to some depot to be filled with goods to be transported across the United States. The trees with purple flowers, absolutely beautiful as we leave town. We're still in North Carolina, but approaching the border with Virginia. I would imagine we should be there in about 15 minutes or so. The countryside is mixed. At the moment we're back into woodland, but also there seems to be a lot of water at the base of the trees. I'm wondering whether this is a swampy area. The sun is still shining and it's a beautiful day, and we're progressing at about 65 miles an hour. Lots of agriculture where we are, fields with nice rows of plants growing. We've just passed a field that looked like French beans growing, and then after a bit of arable land, we go back into the forest. I thank all the passengers and crew aboard Amtrak's Silver Star train that left Miami on Saturday the 25th of June. The US Rail Journeys podcasts are produced and published by the Mr. T Podcast Studio. Thank you very much for listening, and please join me again in a couple of weeks for the next instalment.